Welcome to Jenn in the Mix. Now, this episode is going to be a little bit different. I needed some decaf coffee, and from my hurricane snacks, I have comfort food of a salted caramel chocolate chip cookie. I did not eat all my hurricane snacks before the hurricane. We just came out of Hurricane Elaine and Milton. Milton was the big one. Milton stressed me out a lot, but we are here. And this episode is actually not going to be fully me, so I need to do a little intro. Back in the day, I visited Hot Springs, Arkansas, and stayed at the Arlington Hotel. It's a beautiful place. If you've gone to the park there and you've visited the hot springs, it is literally hot springs. And it's high content mineral water. So it's a beautiful place to go visit. I went there, did not know the history of the Arlington Hotel until I got there, where we learned that it is Al Capone. Al Capone stayed there back in the day. This was the place to be. You could gamble, all that good stuff. Al Capone used to rent out the whole fourth floor. There is still a suite there called the Al Capone Suite, and it's just a very neat hotel. It's very Art Deco in the lobby area. So worth a visit. However, I did not know that there was also a history of hauntedness with it. So I, with my friend, we stayed there, and we were coming back from the pool, and she was making fun of me because I was at another hotel. I was trying to capture orbs and ghosts, and I was doing all this thing. So she was making fun of me, and I said, "Oh yeah, right, okay." So I started just snapping pictures, and just having fun with it. So we ended up leaving. I sat in the lobby and I started to go through the pictures to delete them because I had taken so many, and obviously they were useless. It was just the hallway. And on one of them, I noticed a blue glow at the end. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange. I zoomed in and saw a figure. The figure was looking at us. It was pretty freaky. But I ended up doing a blog post about it, and it's been sitting on my site, jenniferstinnett.com, for quite some time. My Just Thoughts blog. You can go over there and take a look. And in fact, I'll put the link to the blog in the description of this podcast. So I wrote a blog post, and it's gotten some nice hits and some other people who've had experiences. However, I've also gone down a deep dive with AI. And if anyone has used Notebook LM, you know that you can go on there and you can upload a link, PDFs. You can upload a whole bunch of source documents, and then you can ask AI to analyze it and give you feedback, questions. You can make an FAQ table. It just depends on what you're putting in there. Go check it out. Go check out Notebook LM with Google. Try it out. You're going to be amazed. It's such... It's a little mind-blowing, but in the course of this, there's a section called Deep Dive. And what this is it will actually generate a podcast conversation about the information you put in for your sources for it to read and look at. Okay. I did that for my ghost picture blog post that I did way back in the day. And this is the conversation you're going to hear next. Now, I just want to tell you the blog post itself was maybe a 2-minute read. This did a 7-minute podcast on it. It talked about the area of Hot Springs, and it goes into accurate information. And the worst part for me is it was a better storyteller than I am. It completely, this is where we're at, people. This is, so entertain yourself, because this is actually a very good podcast off of my blog post. They do diss me a little bit. They kind of are telling me that I'm crazy in the blog post, but enjoy. And also, this is our future. They are better than us. I'm going to eat my cookie. I'm going to listen with you. All right, let's get into the podcast.
later, you're looking at it and something just seems off. Yeah. Well, that's kind of what we're looking at today. We're diving into a story about the Arlington Hotel. It's in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And this is blog post by a woman named Jennifer Stinnett. And she thinks she may have captured something unusual in one of her photos. So whether you're into ghost stories or just enjoy a good mystery, I think this will be interesting. So picture this, right? The Arlington Hotel. It's old, historic, tons of history, and you can just feel the past kind of hanging in the air, you know? Jennifer's coming off of a kind of disappointing ghost tour at this other place, the Crescent Hotel, and she decides to try to capture some of her own evidence of the paranormal. So she's walking around, camera in hand, snapping pictures of the hotel's architecture. Later on, she's going back through, deleting some of the photos, and one makes her stop. There at the end of one of the hallways, there's this weird bluish hue that almost looks like smoke just kind of hanging in the air. So is it a trick of the light? Is it her imagination? Or is it something more?
It's really interesting how our brains are wired to find patterns. Like, we try to make sense of even the most random things. And photographs, well, they can really play with how we see things.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that could explain these weird anomalies? Like when we think we're seeing a ghost in a photo, what is it we're really looking at?
Well, light is a big one. If you think about these old buildings like the Arlington, they've got these big chandeliers, and the windows probably haven't been cleaned in, well, who knows how long, and maybe even some old mirrors, right? Light can bounce around in crazy ways and cause all sorts of weird effects that could look like, well, almost anything if you're not careful. And then there's dust. You can't see those little particles, but under a camera flash, forget about it. They look like little glowing orbs just floating around.
So what, like a whole group of ghosts could really just be dust? That's kind of funny, but also a little disappointing.
Right. And another thing to think about is lens flares. So when the light hits the camera lens in just the right way, you get this hazy orb-looking thing that seems all spooky, but it's really just, physics.
Okay, so light, dust, lens issues. What about other things? Like camera straps or bugs flying around, or even raindrops. I mean, those could show up in a photo too, right?
Oh, yeah. Anything that gets between the thing you're taking a picture of and the lens can cause weird stuff to happen.
It's funny how something could be totally normal but still be so interesting.
It is. But that's what I think is so great about people. We want to know about everything. We want to understand the world and how things work. Sometimes that means we question things we see.
Which brings us back to Jennifer's picture, right? And this wasn't just any hotel. The Arlington is supposed to have a pretty interesting past. I heard even Al Capone may have spent some time there.
It's true. The Arlington has seen a lot in its time, and Al Capone was part of it. You see, during Prohibition, Hot Springs was a popular place for gangsters because they could kind of lay low there. And Capone liked to visit the Arlington, probably because it was a pretty nice hotel.
It does make you wonder about who else may have walked those halls, right? And what they might have left behind.
And Hot Springs has always been a place where people felt like there was something different about it. I mean, people have been going to those hot springs for hundreds of years because they believed in the healing waters. You put that kind of history together in a place, and it's no wonder people start to think it might be haunted.
It's like the line between fact and fiction gets a little blurry.
Exactly. But that's part of what makes these stories so interesting, right?
So getting back to that photo, what was it about that blue smoky looking thing that Jennifer found so unsettling?
Well, you know how we were talking about how light can play tricks on us? It could be something as simple as a reflection, maybe from a lamp or something further down the hall that you can't see in the picture. Or even a window.
Huh, I hadn't thought about that.
And the way it looks in the picture, kind of hazy like smoke, that could be the camera itself. Like how fast the picture was taken, or even if she moved the camera a little bit without realizing it.
So even just taking the picture could make it look kind of spooky.
Exactly. And don't forget, she was trying to find orbs, right? So she was already looking for something unusual.
It's like when you think you hear something in your house at night and suddenly every little creak sounds scary.
Yeah, exactly. Our brains can play tricks on us. If we're expecting to see something, we're more likely to see it, even if it's not really there. That's why it's so important to think about the context when you see these pictures.
That's true. Speaking of context, what else can you tell us about the Arlington Hotel? I mean, besides Al Capone, of course.
Well, before Capone's time, Hot Springs was already a popular place. Native American tribes believed those hot springs were sacred. They thought the water had healing powers. Then later on, people started coming from all over just to visit the springs.
So you've got all that history, And then you add in the gangsters and the rumors of hauntings, and it's no wonder people feel like there's something mysterious about the place.
Right, and those stories get passed down. Each generation adds a little something to them. It's like a real-life ghost story, you know?
I know. It's like the hotel itself is part of the story. It makes you wonder what other secrets it might be hiding.
Right, and isn't that part of what makes this so fascinating? It's not just about whether ghosts are real or not. It's about how we experience these stories and these places.
So do you think Jennifer actually saw a ghost?
Well, I don't know about that, but I think she definitely captured that feeling, you know, that little shiver of what if.
Yeah.
And I think that's what keeps us coming back to these stories, that sense of wonder and the possibility that there might be more to the world than we realize.
I think you're right. Okay, well, we've talked about Jennifer's experience and some of the things that could explain it, but what do you think? Take a look at the picture on our website. We'll put the link in the show notes and let us know. What's your first impression? Do you see the ghostly figure? Or do you think there's a more logical explanation? It's so interesting to think about how differently people interpret things. Like what looks like nothing to one person can seem totally spooky to someone else.
It's true. It really shows you how subjective our experiences can be. And it makes you think, you know, what else might we be missing out on? Or maybe even misinterpreting because we're not looking at it in the right way.
It's like, even if you can explain something scientifically, there's still that part of you that wonders, but what if? It's like we kind of enjoy being a little scared sometimes, you know, as long as it's not real, of course.
And that curiosity, that desire to explore what we don't understand, that's what pushes us forward. I mean, think about it. A lot of big scientific discoveries came from someone saying, hey, wait a minute, what if things aren't the way we think they are?
That's so true. It's like the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know.
Exactly. And it's not about being afraid of the unknown. It's about being excited by it. It's about that sense of wonder.
Well said. Well, we've explored Jennifer's photo. We've talked about the Arlington Hotel, and we've even touched on the nature of belief and perception. So as we wrap up our deep dive today, I think the big takeaway is that sometimes the most interesting questions are the ones that don't have easy answers. Sometimes a ghost is just a trick of the light, and sometimes, well, sometimes it's something more. And that's part of the fun, wouldn't you say? The mystery.
It absolutely is. The not knowing, the wondering. That's what keeps us curious and keeps us exploring.
Exactly. So whether you're a believer or a skeptic, keep an open mind, keep asking questions. And who knows, maybe you'll have your own brush with the unexplained someday. Until next time, keep exploring the mysteries around you.